One moment. That's all it takes to lose your center. A sharp word, a flinch of anger, a reaction you wish you could pull back but can't. We've all been there, and it's in those exact moments that your discipline either protects you or exposes you. The Stoics understood that the difference between chaos and calm is often a breath, not passive silence, but chosen stillness, not suppressing emotion, but mastering response. Marcus Aurelius knew that a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions, and no ambition is more noble than learning to respond with clarity when the world tries to rattle you. When you overreact, you hand the steering wheel of your mind to the world. When you pause, you reclaim it. This isn't about detachment, it's about direction. Strength not in how loud you are, but in how quietly you can hold your ground. This video is about slowing the mind. In a world obsessed with reaction, this is about refinement. You're about to learn 7 Stoic responses, each one designed to help you interrupt reactivity, restore control, and build a calm that doesn't collapse when tested. Welcome to Stoic Philosophy Daily, where your story matters. Share your experience or your biggest struggle below. Every comment you leave is a gift. We read with care, answer with heart, and treat your journey as part of our own. This is more than a channel, it's a circle of strength. If you've ever said, "I wish I didn't react like that," this is your moment. Drop a comment below. I choose response over reaction. And let's walk this path of inner mastery together. 1. Seize the space before the storm. Before you lose your temper, raise your voice, or send that message, there is a space. A moment so small that most people never notice it, but the Stoic does. They know that this sliver of time is where destiny is shaped, not with force, but with awareness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly to return to the self, not to react, but to reflect. When you're triggered, your first job is not to defend or explain. It's worth noting. What am I feeling? What's driving it? Is it fear, pride, or exhaustion? Often, our overreactions aren't rooted in the present, but in the past. Old wounds looking for new places to bleed. That's why awareness is everything. You're not just responding to the moment. You're filtering it through years of pain, insecurity, and expectation. This is why clarity begins with presence. This space, the moment before the emotional storm, is not empty. It's a forge, and you're the blacksmith. Your discomfort is the heat. Your breath is the hammer. And your character, that's what's being shaped. You don't need to be a monk. You need to be a commander. Calm is not passive, it's strategic. The Stoic sees this space like a general surveying the battlefield. You don't lunge forward, you scan, breathe, and decide. Most people are puppets of their surroundings. You are not. Every pause is a refusal to be owned by the energy around you, a refusal to let someone else's chaos dictate your character. Try this. Next time you feel triggered, don't fight the feeling. Study it. Sit in that moment like a blacksmith at the forge, letting discomfort burn, not to destroy, but to reveal. Don't flee from the tension. Let it stretch. Breathe. Count 5 seconds, then 10, then more. In the beginning, it feels like you're doing nothing, but you're doing the most important thing in creating space for your reason to catch up to your emotion. That space is where wisdom lives. And what changes? Over time, you stop feeling hijacked. You stop being yanked around by every inconvenience, every insult. You become steady, like a tree that doesn't shake every time the wind blows, like a musician who knows when not to play the note. That silence becomes power. At Stoic Daily, we believe that pause is not weakness. It's wisdom in motion. Drop a comment. I train the pause. What's one trigger you'll respond to with clarity this week? 2. Don't carry what isn't yours. The Stoic doesn't crumble under insult. Because the Stoic doesn't see every word as a weapon. They understand a simple truth. Most people aren't attacking you. They're just leaking stress, leaking confusion, leaking childhood wounds they never healed. And you've walked into the splash zone. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But most of us don't react. We absorb. A stranger ignores us and we feel invisible. A friend forgets to reply and we feel rejected. A coworker cuts us off. We call it betrayal. But none of this pain is born from the event. It's born from the meaning we assigned to it. Here's the shift. What if it meant nothing? What if their silence was just busyness, their rudeness just projection, their coldness just inner chaos? Suddenly, your mind has room to breathe. You've created distance from the emotion, and in that space you find freedom. Freedom from being a puppet of every micro reaction in the room. Freedom to move with clarity, not wounds. This isn't passivity. This is presence with power. You're not walking away because you're weak. You're walking away because you're wise. Not everything deserves your energy. You're not the janitor of everyone's emotional mess. You're the guardian of your own peace. Try this. The next time someone frustrates you, don't ask, "Why did they do that to me?" Ask, "What are they struggling with?" Then offer yourself 3 alternative explanations that don't center on you. Maybe they're tired, distracted, dealing with something invisible. This mental exercise pulls you out of the victim loop and drops you into emotional mastery. You'll notice the difference in your body. Fewer spikes, less heat, less narrative building. You'll stop rehearsing arguments in your head and start reclaiming your energy. That's detachment, not from people, but from the chaos they carry. At Stoic Daily, we believe that peace begins when you stop picking up what isn't yours. Drop a comment. I choose clarity over chaos. What's one situation this week you can reinterpret instead of absorbing? 3. Let time do its work. Most damage in life doesn't come from events. It comes from speed. The speed of the reply, the speed of the assumption, the speed of the emotion outrun by wisdom. The Stoic trains in the opposite direction. Slow enough to see clearly, slow enough to choose, because the pause is not empty time. It is a workshop where judgment is forged. Seneca wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is delay, and there is deep psychology in this. Emotion is chemical before it is logical. It floods the body first, the mind second. If you act while the body is still burning, you are not choosing, you are discharging. But if you wait, the chemistry shifts. Heat drops, narrative softens. What felt like betrayal often reveals itself as misunderstanding. What felt urgent begins to look small. Time doesn't weaken truth, it reveals it. This is not avoidance. It is refinement, like muddy water settling in a glass. When shaken, everything is clouded. Leave it still and clarity rises on its own. The Stoic knows the first response is rarely the wisest. Wisdom is the response that survives time, not the one that wins the moment. Delaying does not mean doing nothing. It means anchoring action in principle instead of impulse. It means choosing substance over spectacle, calm over drama, long-term integrity over short-term relief. That space between stimulus and response is where character either fractures or fortifies. Try this. Make it a rule. Never respond to emotional heat immediately. Give yourself a window, 5 minutes, 10, an hour, a day if needed. The size is less important than the intention. Let the pause become sacred ground. Step away, walk, breathe, write. Let your values speak before your wounds do. When needed, say calmly, "I need time to think about this." That is not a weakness. That is leadership of the self. Watch what changes. Conflicts shrink before they grow. Words become measured. Regret becomes rare. Your presence gains weight because it is no longer reactive. You stop speaking to release emotion and start talking to express truth. And when you finally respond, your words carry clarity, not residue. That is the discipline of delay. That is emotional strength under control. At Stoic Daily, we believe time is not hesitation. It is mastery in motion. Comment below, I choose clarity over speed. Where in your life do you need to delay before you decide? 4. Expect the storm, don't take it personally. People will disappoint you, not because they're evil, but because they're human, imperfect, impulsive, and unaware of the storms they carry inside. And if you don't prepare for that, you'll mistake the weather of others as an attack on your sky. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. This isn't pessimism, it's armor. It's emotional readiness in a world that rarely moves with grace. Much of our pain doesn't come from what people do, but from what we expected them to do. You thought they'd be fair, thoughtful, self-aware, and when they weren't, it wasn't just disappointment. It was a betrayal of the version you held in your head. But that version wasn't them, it was your projection. And the collapse of that illusion often stings more than the action itself. The Stoic understands. Ego, haste, immaturity, and confusion aren't rare events. They're the background noise of humanity. You can resent that, or you can train for it. Expecting imperfection doesn't make you cynical. It makes you ready, like a traveler packing a raincoat. Not because they want the storm, but because they don't want to be soaked by surprise. Try this. Each morning in your journal or silently in your mind, name the likely behaviors you may encounter: rudeness, selfishness, forgetfulness. Then affirm, I expect this, and I will meet it with calm. This rehearsal trains your emotional immunity. It's like preloading your defenses with dignity, so you don't flinch when immaturity knocks. This mindset doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you won't collapse under it. You won't let the chaos of others crack your center because your peace isn't reactive. It's rehearsed. You've built it like a fortress, not to shut the world out, but to stay upright when it shakes. At Stoic Daily, we believe that expecting the storm is the first step to staying calm inside it. Comment below, I won't trade my clarity for their chaos. What pattern in others use to shake you most? And how are you choosing to prepare differently today? 5. Guard your sphere, train your mind. Most emotional chaos begins with a simple mistake. Reaching for control that was never yours, trying to manage other people's moods, trying to bend outcomes, trying to argue with reality as if it owes you cooperation. This is where overreaction is born, not from the event, but from misplaced authority. The Stoic lives differently. They know their true territory is small but absolute. Their thoughts, their effort, their values, their response. Everything else is weather, and the weather is not negotiable. It is prepared for. When you remember this boundary, something inside you settles. You stop wrestling the wind and start steering your own ship. This shift is not passive, it is precise. Instead of scattering energy outward, you direct it inward where it multiplies. You cannot control traffic, but you can slow your breath. You cannot control someone's tone, but you can choose whether your dignity drops to meet it. You cannot command outcomes, but you can command preparation, consistency, and effort. That is real power, and power that lives inside cannot be confiscated by circumstances. Try this. When stress hits, draw 2 columns. In the first, write what is within your control. In the second, what is not. Then act only from the first column. Watch how quickly frustration loses fuel, because your mind now has direction, not diffusion. This is how emotional energy stops leaking into battles you were never meant to fight. But there is another layer. Control is not only external, it is internal language. Before you react outwardly, you react inwardly. A voice speaks. If that voice is panicked, you spiral. If that voice is steady, you stabilize. But most people never train this voice, so it repeats old scripts, old fears, old wounds. It exaggerates, it accuses, it catastrophizes. Left untrained, it becomes a saboteur wearing your own voice. The Stoic trains this voice like a general trains an officer. Firm, clear, rational. When emotion surges, you listen. Then you respond to your own thought. Is this judgment true? Is this mine to carry? What is actually within my power here? This is not self-talk. This is self-leadership. Over time, the frantic inner noise is replaced by a calmer authority. One that questions before concluding. One that slows before spiraling. One that reminds you who you are when the moment tries to make you forget. At Stoic Daily, we believe peace begins when you rule your inner territory before trying to rule the world. Comment below. I focus on what is mine to control. Where do you most often waste energy on what was never yours? 6. Control the controllables. Control is the first gate to freedom. Most people don't lose peace because of what happens, but because they forget what they control. The Stoics made one thing clear. Your emotions are not victims of circumstance. They are the product of judgment. You don't suffer because things happen. You suffer because you insist they shouldn't have happened. Epictetus said it best. Some things are up to us and some things are not. And your job every day is to know the difference. When you forget this, you try to micromanage people, predict outcomes, and fix things that aren't yours to fix. That's how anxiety multiplies. That's how chaos enters. You're like a person trying to stop a storm by yelling at the clouds, frustrated, soaked, and still powerless. But when you remember your domain, your breath, your effort, your values, you become immovable. The world may shake, but you won't. Why? Because you stopped standing on sand. You placed your power where no one can take it, in what you do, not what they do, in how you respond, not what happens. And that shift is more than strategic, it's spiritual. It's the quiet recentering of the soul. When you no longer need the world to behave, you start to breathe deeper. You stop bracing for impact and begin building your internal shelter. You can't control traffic, but you can slow your breath. You can't control someone's anger, but you can choose not to mirror it. You can't control the outcome, but you can control your preparation. And that's not weakness, that's power. It's the calm of a ship captain in rough waters, adjusting sails instead of cursing the wind. Try this. When stress hits, draw 2 columns. In one, a list what you can control. In the other, what you cannot. Then take a highlighter and strike through every thought, fear, or complaint from the second column. Feel the shift in your body. That's clarity. That's the agency returning. It may feel strange at first, like walking away from a fight you always picked. But notice how your breath deepens, how your jaw unclenches. The nervous tension begins to dissolve. This is not an escape. This is a command. At Stoic Daily, we believe peace begins the moment you stop negotiating with what you can't change. Comment below. I take back my power. What's one thing today that you will stop trying to control? 7. Train the voice within. The real battlefield is not outside. It's in the voice that speaks before you act. Every reaction you've ever regretted was approved by an inner sentence first. A thought whispered, "This is unfair. You can't handle this. They shouldn't treat you like that." And before you knew it, emotion had already taken command. The Stoics understood this deeply. Philosophy is not what you say out loud. It's what your mind says when no one hears it. If your inner voice is frantic, your life feels like an emergency. If it is grounded, even chaos loses its grip. That voice is not fixed, it's trained, and if you don't train it, the world will. Old wounds will write their script. Fear will choose its tone. Past failures will narrate your future. Left unchecked, it becomes a nervous commentator, exaggerating threats, replaying embarrassment, and predicting disaster before anything happens. That's why calm people aren't born. They are internally coached. But when you take ownership of that voice, something shifts. You begin to hear a different tone, slower, clearer, firm without panic. It doesn't shout, it questions. Is this truly a threat? What is in my control right now? Is this worth my peace? This is the voice of leadership within, the quiet general behind every steady decision. And the more you practice hearing it, the less power outside noise holds over you. Your inner voice should interrupt impulse, not fuel it. It should challenge anger before it leaves your mouth. It should examine fear before it becomes belief. Like a trainer correcting posture, it adjusts your mental stance in real time. Over days and weeks, this correction becomes automatic. Not effort, but foundation. This is where Stoic calm comes from. Not suppression, not luck, but a mind taught how to speak with reason under pressure. Try this tonight. When a strong emotion hits, write the thought behind it as if someone else said it to you. Then answer it as a Stoic mentor would. Is this judgment rational? Is this within my control? What would a wiser version of me say back? Notice how the emotional charge drops when reason speaks. That is the voice you are strengthening. At Stoic Daily, we believe self-mastery begins with mastering the conversation in your own mind. Comment below. I train my inner voice. What thought do you most need to challenge this week? Calm is a quiet revolution. There's a kind of strength you don't need to prove. It speaks before you say a word. You feel it in how someone sits with discomfort, how they meet disrespect, not with fire, but with stillness. This isn't a weakness. It's restraint sharpened into presence. The Stoics didn't aim to be emotionless. They aimed to be unmoved by nonsense, to see clearly, then choose wisely. Because every reaction you give costs something: energy, time, identity. And you must ask, was that worth the price? To never overreact doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've trained the space between feeling and responding. It means you've learned that power isn't loud, it's precise. The world may throw chaos, but you get to decide how much of it enters your system. Every pause is a declaration. This is who I choose to be. And when you live that way, when you let go of the need to clap back, to defend, to prove, you start to feel something deeper than control. You feel peace, not surface calm, but forged calm, built from discipline, shaped by values and maintained in silence. In a world where attention is currency and outrage is viral, stillness becomes rebellion. To walk through noise and not need to echo it. To be clear in a storm of confusion. To be calm in a crowd chasing chaos. That's what you've been building through every response you withheld, every thought you examined, every moment you chose awareness over autopilot. Try this tonight. Before sleep, replay your day. What moment did you meet with wisdom? Which one could you return to with more clarity tomorrow? No shame, just reflection. That's how calm becomes nature. That's how self-mastery is forged. At Stoic Philosophy Daily, we believe composure is not passivity. It is power in its purest form. Comment below. I choose response over reaction. What's one moment today that tested your center?
If you're seeking more, discover the full path on my channel.